Todd over on YouTube just picked himself up a 2006 Ford F-250. Sounds like it's got a diesel. He's driving on some bumpy roads, wants something more comfortable, and he's looking at what the coilover option is going to be the best. But I think it's probably important to explain and talk about what coilovers really are before we can talk about what the best solution is for you, because I think you might be surprised by the answer. Coilover is short for coil over strut. A strut is a shock absorber that has a load-bearing or locating component. Coilover means the coil is mounted over it into one single unit. Probably the biggest reason why coilovers are even a thing, there's packaging. By putting the spring and the shock in the same place gives you a lot more room for activities around that coilover. So this opens up the ability to have a secondary shock, like a secondary bypass. That's why you see trucks with coilovers and bypasses, which is gonna probably be the ultimate in high-speed off-road performance. Also, many coilovers come with threaded bodies, so you can adjust preload and therefore ride height, so you can get to your desired lift height or even offset additional constant load from things like bumpers and winches. But let's bring things back to reality a bit, because let's be honest, you probably aren't gonna wanna go for a coilover on your truck if your goal is just a little bit more comfort on a rough road. Your truck runs a divorced coil and shock in the front and leaf springs and shocks in the rear. Starting in the back, to be able to run a coilover effectively, you're gonna have to cut off all those leaf spring mounts, cut off your shock mounts, burn in new mounts, and link it with a 3 or 4 link suspension system. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, takes a lot of knowledge in fabrication or somebody who knows a lot, which costs a lot. This would be the go-to move for a serious wheeler, but once again, if you're just cruising down some bumpy roads, you want to bounce around a little less, probably overkill. Now, converting the front to a coilover setup is actually a lot easier to do. There are many brands, including Carly, Icon, King, BDS, and a number of other brands that offer coilover solutions that simply bolt into your factory coil bucket. But those are fraught with a lot of issues in our opinion. Coilovers are inherently going to be longer than a regular shock, and they're going to be longer than your springs as well. This means for a given lift height, any bolt-on coilover package will have less travel. Suspension's performance and the overall comfort, of course, is just as much about quality of the components as much as it is quantity of the travel. And when you are so short in travel, when you end up with less travel than stock, it's hard to have even as good of a ride despite how good your shocks are. So what's the solution? Well, there are tons of brands like Icon, Carly, and others that make really good spring and shock setups. You're right on the line with Comfort and Fox, and their 2.0s are probably the softest and most comfortable thing on the market for these trucks that you can at least bolt on easily. That said, they're a little weak under a load, but there is a solution. Fox recently just dropped their 2.5 HTO line for the 05 to 2016 F-250 and F-350 four-wheel drive models. We found those to be just as plush over the smaller bumps as the 2.0s, but a little bit more supportive when you hit something hard, and a lot more supportive under a load with a lot less of that nasty float. So if you're looking for a solution for a little bit more comfortable ride that you don't want to give up the ability to do truck stuff, those 2.5 HTOs are a great call. And well, there are great spring options that will improve comfort as well from brands like Carly, Icon, and in the rear, Deaver.